What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of State Champs Hang Time. We are having a good time getting a chance to do this each and every week. We had like 12,000 views last week, so obviously people have a passion for what's happening, especially now that high school basketball is heating up. So
we're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly.
The word is spreading.
Yes,
right.
Scott Burnstein, TJ Kelley, Jeff Dullack in the house. How you doing, boys?
Doing well.
All right, quickly as we get going here, I do want to thank our sponsors, of course, the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan, BCAM. Go to bcam.org. We're going to have a nice segment. We're going to talk about BCAM's best later in the show. That's kind of like the dream team and all kinds of. It's actually much bigger than that because they have top 20 throughout the classes and unlimited honorable mentions. So coaches get to vote on that. We'll talk about it later. Tom Markowski will be in that segment. Remember him? He'll be back. And then also our sponsor, Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser. If you need to do any kind of fundraising for your team, for your school, for your event, go to doughraiser.com. All right, as we get going here, let's since we record on a Wednesday, we air this show on a Thursday night, early night. We could talk quickly about what's fresh and what happened Tuesday. And I'll start because it's going to be our main event on State Champs this Sunday, 9 a.m. on Fox Sports Detroit. We sent a camera, John Kidd specifically, to Grand Ledge. And it was East Lansing and Grand Ledge getting together second time this season. It was Grand Ledge who beat East Lansing, ended their 40-game regular season win streak in early January.
Brandon Johns was on the floor for that game, but he was on the floor Tuesday, had a huge second half.
Yes, he did. So Grand Ledge came in 11-2, and it was really an outstanding game. Went to overtime for Grand Ledge. The senior Al McCready, he had 17 points. He was really big early. They were up after the first quarter. East Lansing was looking for their fourth straight win. Jack Morse went in double figures with 16, but they were still trailing by a point at halftime. Javel Lewis for Grand Ledge, right? Yeah, for Grand Ledge. Had a big third quarter, big block in that game. You'll see it in the highlights.
Defense.
It was sweet. It was tied at 37 into the fourth, and then it was again Lewis, who had a team high 19, helped put them up 56-46 with 3 minutes to go, and then boom, it was Brandon John's show. Yep. From that point, he had a two-handed jam that we'll have in the highlights. Under 10 seconds to go, Grand Ledge misses a free throw. Johns laid it in. We were tied at 61 and went into overtime. All EL in the extra session. Brandon Johns explodes for 28 points. What a performance, especially now that Mr. Basketball is on people's minds.
Mm-hmm. Oh, without a doubt. I think that's it's a vindication. You know, obviously you don't want to lose to the same team twice.
Right.
You know, big-time players got to show up in big-time games.
And they didn't have a lot of big-time games. They needed these. This was a big-time game for them.
Yeah.
They needed a signature win.
Yeah. Brandon Johnson was in foul trouble. First half had 2 fouls, sat down for, I believe, most of the second quarter. Picked up 2 quick ones in the third and sat for most of the third quarter. Then the fourth quarter, last year, we had talked about it. I thought he was the best player in the state last year. And I look at him this year. I just think, he's as good as advertised. He's committed to Michigan. John, who was out there shooting the game, is a big Michigan fan. I've been telling him, dude, you should be excited about this guy.
Yeah.
I'm just a big fan of guys with diverse skill sets and, guys that just aren't, just one-dimensional, guys that are just scorers or just rebounders or just slashers. And he does it all. You can score. He's the prototypical stretch four. He can clear the glass. He can run the floor, and then he can step out and bomb away. And I just love the
kind of like Blake Griffin, but we're not going to talk about Blake Griffin or the Pistons on this podcast at all for right now.
I just love his tenacity and the ferocity he brings when he hits the floor.
Yeah, and he can score on the post.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the other. In what you were talking about, I like to see kids that develop over time. And I think that Brandon has done that in the versatility of his game. Where, all right, he's lacking this. Well, you come back in a few months and you see that, all right, now he's got that. Yeah. All right, cool. He's obviously been working on his craft.
See, the interesting thing that I think there is, and I think Dan Young, who does the BCAM segment, made a really good comparison. Brandon Johns now kind of strikes me as somewhat similar to what Shane Battier was in high school. Very multidimensional, very versatile, and he can do a little bit of everything.
His offensive game right now, in my opinion, is more
diverse.
It's just
because Battier was paint.
It's more flushed out.
Right.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that player comparison. Kind of not quite a point forward, but a guy who's capable of handling the ball at the four and doing a number of different things.
So what were some other Tuesday, notables?
I went down to Cass Tech, saw Pershing beat Cass. Pershing is really clicking right now. They've got all those seniors that are really going on, that are playing really well. Ron Hill, I thought, played an exceptional game as a point guard. Just did a great job of facilitating, getting guys involved, making open shots when he needed to make open shots. I think their X factor right now is a kid, Jalen Benning, who's 6'5", more looks like a football player. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, and he's also Derek Nix's younger brother.
He can jam.
So, I mean, just to kind of throw Mr. Basketball, I think 2009.
Yeah. It was the two Pershing back-to-back, Nix and Appling.
And Nix had a really solid career in East Lansing.
Yeah, and so, it was great to see Jalen Benning really step up, because a lot of these guys for their senior year, hey, you don't have another opportunity. So you have to make the best of what you're given. And hey, sometimes when your back's up against the wall, he obviously stepped up to the forefront, and now Pershing will play Depsa in the championship game, which will also be the first time that there's ever been two teams with under sub 500 records and two Class C teams. So usually it's been a Class A or B team that's won the PSL title. Right. Obviously, things have changed a little bit.
Nobody would have called that matchup.
See, I asked TJ a question off mic. I'm going to ask him again, because a lot of people gave you a hard time for having Edison at, I think, number 5 in your preseason rankings. Yeah. You dropped them out. They were in a little bit of a rough stretch. You feel a little bit vindicated.
They had a lull.
Yeah, you feel a little bit vindicated now that they're in the PSL final, and they're knocking off some really good teams.
I don't know if it's so much vindication for me. I just like to see kids step up to the plate and play to their best of their abilities.
Edison's got 3 Division I signees on this.
And they all play different positions.
Yeah, Spider Johnson in the post, Gary Solomon and PJ Mitchell in the backcourt. So, I mean, anytime you got that kind of talent, that kind of firepower, I don't care what your record is, they're playing a very tough schedule. Right. They're going to be dangerous in tournament play.
And those teams are all at the jugular for themselves. Right. Like, they're out to murder them. Yeah. They're about to murder themselves. And Depsa wound up making it. Detroit Renaissance fell a little bit short. Right. They had a couple of opportunities late in the game. And I mean, that's just I guess that's the way the ball bounces.
So as we get into our ranking segment, Renaissance, you have them in the Class A top 10 for the first time, despite that tough loss. East English Village, you're dropping down to 9.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I thought East English Village should have at least made it to the semifinals. If they would have gone further, then God bless them. But at the same time, I think Renaissance is...
And they lost to Pershing also, correct?
They lost...
Or East English. Who'd they lose to?
Oh, wow.
Who'd they lose to? Did
they lose to...
Or was it Edison?
They might have lost to Renaissance.
Or Renaissance, okay.
So Renaissance. Okay. So this is why I moved Renaissance up. Okay. They beat Henry Ford, which is ranked at the time in Class B. They won the West. Henry Ford won the West. They beat Cass Tech, who was at number 1 for a minute, and then they beat East English Village, who was number 2 in the state. And there are not a lot of teams that can go out there and they've seen, hey, I beat two top 10 Class A teams and a top 10 B team. And so I think the Renaissance is, they're really, meshing together, and they've got one of the best front courts in the state, and now their guards are really starting to come along, and they did a great job on Dave Dejulius the other day, and I think I'm going to say maybe scored 8 points in the first. Dave only scored 8 points in the first half, and this is a guy who can easily go for 40 or 50.
Yeah.
And their backcourt. We're talking about Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that backcourt. I did go to statechampsnetwork.com. I did a blog all about there's a ton of depth in the backcourt in the Detroit PSL right now. Right. Lots of great guard combos, and with Renaissance, you got a freshman senior combo in Keon Henderson and Cortez Garland that I think complement that high profile front court of Carrington, McCaskill, and Chandler Turner.
Mm-hmm. So moving over to Canton, you've got them up to number 4 now in Class A, 6 in the Super 10. I've seen them once, but again, it was against an average Salem team.
Right. I think that one of the things when I looked into doing some of the rankings, I like to see teams that actually win their league, win their conference, and I think that they should be rewarded for doing so. Yeah. And Canton has run the table. I know that they had a close game last week when they played at home versus Wayne Memorial. They beat Wayne Memorial by 30 at Wayne Memorial. And then they lose by 5 points or something like that. Or beat Wayne Memorial at home.
It was a closer match.
Yeah, a closer matchup. But sometimes you need those closer games. And not only that, Wayne was ready for them. All right, now we've got our game plan, and Canton was still able to hold them off. And Wayne is one of those teams they've just been on the cusp of the top 10 the entire year.
They were mad. They wanted to win.
Yeah, they definitely wanted to. And they were the defending champions in the Kaela. So we'll find out about that.
You guys believers now in Canton? For me, we talked about this kind of in our pretenders, contenders segment, 2 weeks ago. I said I wasn't fully bought in yet. I'm getting bought in now because, like we said, this is their second time playing a lot of these teams, and they're kind of holding their own at this point.
Yeah. Another game that we're going to have on State Champs is we're going to get out Friday to Southfield Christian and see River Rouge and Southfield Christian. We're going to have the highlights of that game on State Champs Sunday at 9 a.m. What's that?
The River Rouge faithful.
I know.
And they're going to bring the band, too.
We gave them a lot of love on our last episode.
We did, and they've been. I was chatting with one of the Tonys. I don't know if it was his father or what, but it's still real passionate about Rouge, and they're excited about their team. They think defense is how they're going to win
and
how they're going to go for it.
Yeah, a lot of length.
Yeah. So anyway, what do you think of the matchup?
I would like to see Southfield Christian. I think that this is a matchup where they really need to vindicate themselves, play a lot better than what they did against West Bloomfield. I sent a text message to Bryce Washington and Harlan Beverly after they beat Sterling Heights Parkway Christian by 2 points. And nothing against Parkway Christian. But I sent them a message, and I said, look, I was like, you guys are, when you pass into Southfield, you see state champion Southfield Christian. I was like, you have an opportunity to be a part of this. You lost to Powers North Central in overtime last year, double overtime.
One of the greatest games we'll ever see.
Yeah, but how disappointing is that? And then you go out there and you lay an egg against West Bloomfield.
They lost to Depsa.
But Depsa's a formidable team. But with some of the team, you can't lose to Parkway Christian by 2 points and go out there and beat your chest and say we're this and we're that.
They beat Parkway Christian.
Yeah, excuse me. They beat.
It's
them.
Almost like a loss when you only win by 2.
And so I one thing that I talked to him, I was like, you need to have certain goals, And I was like, whether it be holding a team under 20 points and a half, under 40 for a game, only having 10 turnovers as a team, not giving up offensive rebounds and stuff like that. The little things, because if you guys are bored, find new ways to challenge yourself. And it was great to talk with Harlan and Bryce, and they're both very mature young men, who are some of the best in the state. But I think that it was good to get my point across and that they got it. And then they go out there and they did pretty well the other night.
They better get up because Rouge is going to bring it.
So number 1 in D and number 1 in B.
I haven't seen, and the Southfield Christian is just a tremendous program. What Josh Baker has been able to bring to the table the last decade is
and Clenny Brundage.
And Clenny Brundage, who's like coach, Coach A and Coach B. And Brundage is actually credited with the state championship, I believe, the second or third one they won.
Right.
Because Josh had to take a leave for some family issues.
Yep, I remember.
But this is the first year that I've seen them go out of conference, because their league play doesn't do them any favors because they just it's just kind of like cupcake central for them. Yeah. But this is the first year I've seen them go out of conference, and I don't want to say play intimidated because that's not the right word, but I've just seen them have a difficulty getting up for some of these non-conference games.
Yeah, I was going to go there too.
And the West Bloomfield game, they just were they were just flat. I mean, flat and sluggish. Harlan Beverly, who I am just incredibly high on, I had him ranked number 2 in Oakland County in my Oakland County rankings, only below Foster Loyer. And this is a guy that's going to be playing power conference basketball. He wasn't present at the West Bloomfield game. I mean, he was there, he was in uniform, he was playing, but it was like he wasn't. So I would like to, and Harlan's a great kid, and Bryce Washington's a great kid, and Caleb Hunter's a great point guard. I'm excited and interested in seeing what they'll be able to do against River Rouge, and if they'll kind of bring that intensity that maybe was lacking in the West Bloomfield game. They didn't look. I mean, yes, Depsa is a formidable opponent, but when I saw them play this over the break, I didn't love the performance against Depsa. So, stepping out of conference for a big game against River Rouge, I'd like to see that intensity kind of return from the way I've seen them in the past 6 or 7 years, the way they play their out of conference schedule.
Right. See, I'm kind of in lockstep with you because it's no disrespect to a Parkway Christian or anything like that, but I get the sense that the Southfield Christian team can get bored at times. And you look at they're as talented as they are. We've talked about at length why they should probably leave the conference they're in. We've tossed around the idea of maybe going to the Catholic League, something like that. But just to kind of prove that point, they played Parkway Christian, won by 2. They bounced back. They beat North Farmington on a makeup game. And then they go to Oakland Christian, win by 50.
Yeah. And
that Oakland Christian team only lost to Parkway, or I think that team beat Parkway Christian earlier in the year. So it just shows you that it's kind of like they have to shift their gears at different times. And I think, with that coaching tandem of Josh Baker and Clenny Brundage, when the state tournament gets here, I think this team's going to be ready to go and start really hitting their gears. And you look at their schedule on the way out of the regular season. River Rouge, Ann Arbor Pioneer, Detroit Country Day. That's going to get
They'll
them
get them
ready.
battle tested.
If nothing else, it's a piece of humble pie for some of these guys who
There's
think.
no question. I mean, the intensity factor on that bench, I mean, is there in spades between Baker and Brundage.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there might not be a better coaching staff.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. Watch the highlights this Sunday. If you don't get a chance to follow it on Twitter, I'm sure everybody's going to be blasting it out when the game's going on and giving you updates. But we'll have the highlights, and it'll be there Sunday. All right, we're going to take our first time out. When we come back, we're going to talk about Mr. and Miss Basketball favorites. So that will be coming up in our second segment here. You are listening and watching State Champs Hang Time.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's. Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for one medium pizza at participating locations.
We've been doing this fundraiser for about 4 years, and it's the easiest and best and most profitable fundraiser they have in Michigan.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
All right, welcome back to Hang Time. Time for our second segment of the program. We want to talk Mr. and Miss Basketball favorites. It's that kind of year, that time of year. Everybody's talking about it. Obviously, we talked about Brandon Johns in our first segment, the performance he had on Tuesday night versus a good Grand Ledge team, and obviously a big win for them. And so let's talk about the guys right now who are playing the best basketball and who you expect to see on the final ballot.
Lawyer's still the front runner.
Yeah.
Foster Loyer from Clarkston.
He's having he's having another great year. I always, go to when I start talking about him. Obviously, he's a great point guard. Obviously, he's, the consummate winner. But his efficiency is so off the charts. To see a guy that can get 30 on 10 shots.
Right.
He surpassed the 2,000 point club last week. Another feature I did that you can find on StateChampsNetwork.com.
Yep.
And
Good
he's
article.
Only 40 players in the history of the state have gone over 2,000.
Yep.
I believe 3 of them or 4 of them from Clarkston,
Right.
With the Fifes and him now. But he scored. He joined the 2000 club by scoring 31 points on 9 for 9 from the field and 7 for 7 from the line.
Yeah.
That game sums up who Foster Loyer is.
And when Izzo gets a hold of him,
I used to
he's going to be
question-
that way. His upside is off the charts.
I used to question what he was going to be able to do at the next level because of the size
But
factor.
not
'cause
anymore.
He's tiny. And I heard a lot of people a couple years ago compare him to Bobby Hurley, the former All-American point guard at Duke, and I think that's a great comparison.
He was.
And-
Hurley, I hated him.
Once an All-American, always an All-American.
Yeah.
But just,
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
See, I opened up, when the first time we talked about Mr. Basketball, my front runner was Brandon Johns. And I've since shifted, kind of leaned back towards Foster Loyer. And it's kind of just because what Foster Loyer does, he's one of the most assertive players. He takes over. He doesn't hesitate taking over a game. And I know, last night Brandon Johns was in foul trouble, but there are some times where it seems like Brandon Johns waits until he needs to be Superman, and then he is Superman. He's very passive. He gets his teammates involved, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when we're talking about the Mr. Basketball Award, Foster Loyer is at the forefront of every single possession for Clarkston. He's a gunner. He is.
He oozes cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, and the strength of schedule that Clarkston plays.
And whether
I think
it's
it helps out a lot,
whether they're playing a bottom feeder or they're playing for the state championship, he's bringing you that same effort, that same level of swagger and consistency, and it's just
Now,
it's
boys,
really
it
impressive.
wasn't very long ago that we were on that David Dejulius train, and we
yeah.
were on it and riding it.
Right. But for good reason, though.
Yeah, I know.
And this is also when East English Village beat Clarkston, Dave had a phenomenal game.
Yeah, he did.
I wasn't there, but talking.
I was there. It was one of the
stats.
more. It was one of the more spectacular individual performances I'd seen in the last decade. Just took over that game in the second half. Just gunning. The second he got over half court, gunning nothing but net, possession after possession after possession.
That's what makes him one of my favorite players.
Right. So
Yeah,
so the Ville are not going to be PSL champs.
And I think that
Which
kind
hurts.
of hurts.
It hurts
Dejulius in one way.
It's Mr.
No matter
Basketball
how
candidacy.
and I think that he at least needed to win that quarterfinal game where he could play a semifinal game, or a PSL semifinal game. I think he's still going to win Mr. PSL. If anybody else, maybe Anthony Roberts, but I really don't see that. And, it's Dave's going to win Mr. PSL, but you have to win the PSL championship if you're going to win Mr. Basketball.
At least be in the final.
at least be in the final.
I had Loyer 1, Dejulius 2, Johns 3, but over the last week I've kind of moved Johns now over Dejulius just because of the league tournament factor.
You think they're going to have 5?
I wish that I would. To me personally, I wish that it would go to whoever gets a certain amount of votes, rather than just limiting it to 5.
Yeah,
because we have years like this. Yeah, I mean we have seasons like this where we've got a ton of guys who are worthy to be Mr. Basketball, or at least in the rankings. I mean, Todd Negotian likes to look and
he
say,
finished like 12.
Yeah,
but it means a lot to him.
But I even like to go back in history and say Steve Smith finished 8th.
Right.
And I'd like to see, hey, this is what happens. And not only that, you get to see, Steve Hall's name. You get to see Lou Dawkins' name. You get to see all these other guys, and they weren't in the top 5. But I just think as a history reference, for young guys like myself, who can go out there and they say, hey, I remember that guy.
A couple years ago, there was
Jermaine Jackson, did not make the ballot.
Yeah, and that was.
I mean, there are tons of kids that didn't. Yante Mayton didn't make the ballot. And I think that I saw
that was very, very suspect.
Yeah,
and I had some huge issues with it at the time.
I went to the Orchard Lake St. Mary's Country Day game, and I saw Edmund.
He won Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Michigan. 25 points, 15 boards, like 6 blocks a game. And he doesn't deserve to be in that conversation.
Yeah, and he winds up. He had a
phenomenal. He's going to be one of the all-time greatest players in the history of Georgia.
Yeah. You know what? He's going to pass up.
Incredible.
I think he's going to pass up Dominique Wilkins, like in his next game.
I think he's
or something like that.
He's
number
third all time right now.
Yeah, but I think he's going to pass up Dominique Wilkins. I mean, it's like he's phenomenal. I love watching him play, and every time I talk to the Georgia coaches, they rave of what a great kid he is.
Yeah.
And I think that it is one of those things where you've got to have. Sometimes you need to expand it. I mean, if they were to go expand it this year, I think that. We've got the guys that are going to the Big Ten and playing, obviously, the 3 that we mentioned, but you also have Marcus Bingham, Travion Williams.
Brandon Wade's my sleeper.
Brandon Wade, I think, should be in that top 5. But it's hard to go out there and say, oh, you're not worthy. You're going to tell Trey Williams that? I mean, the kid's averaging 30 and 20.
Right.
And 30, 20, 15.
Yeah, 30, 20, and 15. Yeah.
See, the thing that's going to hurt Travion Williams and David DeJulius is what hurt Greg Elliott and Jamal Cain last year. They're going to split that
votes.
city vote.
Yeah.
But are they even going to be considered to be on the ballot? Is the question.
I think they should. But you also have to look. You have to get some, West Side love. You
Lamar
got
Norman,
Marcus Bingham, who I think is really going to get some serious votes.
I love the fact that in Grand Rapids right now they're calling Godwin Heights Dunk City. People are walking around with T-shirts that say Dunk City
because we see that all the time over here in Detroit.
Yeah. and don't
I got to talk to a couple of people.
Don't sleep on a guy like Marquise Hastings. He's a
Marquise Hastings,
another
guy. Phenomenal player.
And, I think like last year, I don't think any of us really expected to see Isaiah Livers be Mr. Basketball. I think we all kind of assumed it was going to be Xavier Tillman.
Yeah.
That West Side vote shakes things up in a really, really big way.
Yeah. Well, I also think that it was like a kind of Michigan fans. They got to vote for their guy.
Which is what's going to be
now they get to vote for somebody that's going to Michigan.
Like Brandon Johns.
Like a Brandon Johns. But then you've got Dave DeJulius.
And Dave DeJulius, that's true.
Here's what we just talked about what's kind of hurt DeJulius' chances in terms of the play in the PSL tournament. Not him, but the team. Yeah. What hurts John's cause in his candidacy is the fact that he's a guy in East Lansing that's going to Ann Arbor to play at Michigan. Yep. And that's going to turn some people off. See, and that might take some votes away from him. And that's unfortunate.
There's no hiding. I'm a Michigan State fan. But when I kind of like the fact that Brandon Johns went against the grain. He had every reason to just say, "Hey, I'm going to Michigan State. It's right in my backyard. Everybody that I go to school with is probably big time Michigan State fans because they go to every single game possible." He said, "No, I'm going to Ann Arbor." And while what you said is true, it's kind of a redeeming quality in my opinion that he went against the grain, went to Michigan, where he's probably going to be a great fit in that system that John Beilein runs.
Oh, I think he's going to come right out of the gates and be a big impact player next year.
Depending on the opportunity that he's given, they're going to lose. Michigan does lose a little bit on their front court next year, so the opportunity will be there. And then we talk about Isaiah Livers. Isaiah Livers is having a
really good year.
Pretty good year, as a freshman, and I'd love to see that.
My expectations.
I love to see that Xavier Tillman's playing well. I love to see that Greg Elliott's playing well. I love to see that Jamal Cain's playing well. There's nothing more than when the college season rolls around.
Pride and
I'm like,
those kids that you saw them when they were 14 or 15. Now they're grown men and doing it on a national stage. And
how about Monty Morris in his NBA debut?
Right.
Yeah, without a doubt. And another guy who's a phenomenal and very deserving guy. And that was another year where you've had a whole bunch of guys that could have made, Martez. I don't think Khalil Felder wasn't on that Mr. Basketball ballot. I don't believe he was. And people were talking about Martez Walker being better. Martez Walker's going to Texas. And unfortunately his season just ended. His college season just ended with an ankle injury.
James Young Young and Ray McCallum, who both made it to the league, were third in their balloting.
Yeah, but Edmund Sumner, who I just saw yesterday. But Edmund Sumner, who won a state championship his junior year, and I just saw him yesterday, and it was like it irks me, to see some of these kids, and I was like, how are you voting for this kid number 3? He's he won a state championship. He's the best, and then no offense to Deshaun Thrower, Deshaun Thrower, but he didn't win a state championship before. It was and. Look, I mean,
he was really good, but he didn't.
He's not on that level.
He didn't care, but he didn't carry that team.
He went to Stony Brook.
If I recall, there was an NBA player on that team in the front court as well.
Ended up coming back to Eastern, right, to play football.
No, he's at Ferris State right now, playing football and basketball. He's having a great season with Ferris.
Okay.
Ferris is having.
They don't win that state title if Davis is in the middle doing what he's doing.
Oh, yeah, well, without a doubt. And then who wins? Yonte Mayton. Yeah. So you're going to tell me Yonte Mayton, who lost Khalil Gracie?
Yeah.
All right.
So
we've gone off the rails.
A little bit of ranting.
Well, it's good.
Yeah.
Good
got into the weeds.
Yeah, exactly. You had to bring up Yonte Mayton. Set everything up. That's all right, guys. Miss Basketball, we got some equal time here. Quickly, who you guys think are going to be up for that award?
I think Clegg.
Camree
Clegg.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a big fan
Clemson,
of
right?
I'm a big fan of Camree Clegg. She's not the biggest guard, but I don't think there's anybody that, pound for pound, I don't know if there's anybody in the state that's better. And there's somebody like Kaela Webb from Country Day who's obviously
I'm going to see on
player.
Saturday.
Right.
They play Saginaw Heritage, #1.
That's a big game.
In the state. So, we're going to go shoot that game, John and I.
I mean, I'm putting my full support behind Kaela Webb. Yeah, I'm an Oakland County guy, so I'm a little biased. But, when you come to night in, night out, consistency, the winning factor, the X factor that she brings. She's been a starting point guard since her freshman year.
She's got a chance for 3 state titles.
Got a couple state championships already under her belt. She's going to Providence, and
right.
I maybe she's not the doesn't have the wow factor of a Destiny Pitts, who's at Minnesota right now, who's a teammate the last couple of years. But there's no question that what she brings to the table is deserved of serious consideration for this award. And obviously, Clemson-bound Clegg, deserves a lot of props. But I'll put my Kaela Webb up against her any day of the week.
Yeah, I think not to discredit everybody else in the conversation, we could have several other players that'll get in the conversation. We can talk about that.
Jaida Hampton, East Lansing,
undefeated,
going to Wichita State.
But you look at Camree Clegg, and she, in a certain way, she reminds me of what Foster Loyer does. They both play with this swagger, this confidence that I think is unmatched. Among their peers at this point, among the other seniors. I don't think there's any more confident player than Camree Clegg with the swagger she plays with. And Kaela Webb, almost reminds me of Brandon Johns in kind of the way that they're soft-spoken. They let their play do the talking. And I think, when you look at, the two of the top candidates that we've talked about, I don't know if it gets much better than what we've had this year on both boys and girls.
I like the comparison with
Camree's at Wayne Memorial, by the way, so people know who it is.
And I like the Loyer comparison to Webb in terms of her ability as a floor general.
Right.
This is someone who gets on the floor, and every game I've ever seen her, and I've seen her since she was a freshman year, just as I mentioned about Loyer a couple minutes ago, cool, calm, and collected, someone that doesn't let the moment get away from her, someone that is just, dialed in on every possession. She's a coach on the floor. She's someone that, is equally adept at scoring as she is distributing. She gets to the rack.
Right.
She's got a really nice shot, and she's someone that also like Foster Loyer, she's someone that does it while she exhibits swagger. She's also incredibly humble, and that's not always two things that are married together.
Right.
Yeah, but she's going to Clemson too, Camree Clegg.
Yep.
Who is tops in the ACC right now.
Right. And then you
she
kind of
has a 4.5 grade point average too.
Not too shabby.
That's pretty
shabby.
impressive. But then you look at someone like Jaida Hampton. East Lansing's 15-16-0 at this point.
That's a nice 1-2 punch there for the East Lansing hoops community.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, you look at just what she's been able to do. And East Lansing last year had a really strong run. Didn't quite get there. This year, this is her team. If she takes East Lansing on a deep run in the playoffs, there's no doubt she's going to get some of that support from that mid-Michigan area.
When do they vote?
Does it work out the same as on the boys' side where they vote after district?
It's the week before, actually. So
they vote before the playoffs start.
Yeah, Miss Basketball is the week bore Mr. Basketball when they announce the name.
Me personally, I think they should wait till the end of the season.
I think it'd be great if they just announced the winner at halftime of one of the Class A final or something like that.
Oh, that'd be. I mean, if they did that'd be fantastic.
That's the biggest stage. They hand out the trophy as it is,
or at least have the voting after the regional final or something like that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's a couple other ones that I like. Lasha Petrie from Ypsilanti Arbor Prep. Obviously, she's got the pedigree of taking that team deep. Sleeper, East Kentwood has a couple of players. One's last name is Saunders. The other is Corinne Jemison. Those are two players that led East Kentwood to the state final last year, and East Kentwood again is unbeaten, 16-0, I believe at this point. They've got a really good chance to win it all this time. And I think East Kentwood's got a couple of good candidates there too.
All right. Well, you know what? We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to have Dan Young. We're going to be joined by Tom Markowski. We're going to be talking about BCAM's best. So we're talking about Mr. Basketball, Miss Basketball. Well, they have like their own assemblage of a dream team. So we're going to talk about some of those guys. They get up to 10 players, which means we get to talk about all those guys that you mentioned. And then we'll come back. We'll talk about the Catholic League playoffs, which will be starting up this weekend.
Yes,
correct?
Saturday.
So we will have the guys back in here to kind of wrap up this week's show. So stay with us. Again, you are listening and watching State Champs Hang Time.
Welcome to Be the Referee with MHSEA Assistant Director Mark Ewell.
Every summer, we hear broadcasters talk about the dog days of the Major League Baseball season during the month of August and into September, when everybody hits the proverbial wall. During the month of February, we have also arrived at the dog days of the high school basketball season. All of the work that's gone in the previous 3 months is beginning to add up for both coaches and officials alike. For coaches, it's managing the pressures and expectations within each of their teams, and for officials, all of those miles up and down the floor are beginning to add up. It's this time of year where both groups need to refocus and re-energize themselves to give students the best possible experience during the month of March.
Thanks, Mark. You can be a referee. Go online now to sign up at MHSAA.com. Be the Referee is a production of the MHSAA Network.
All right, everybody, welcome back to State Champs Hang Time. And as you can see, we have a familiar face, not in the podcast room with us, but broadcasting from far, far away, Tom Markowski. A lot of people were saying, what happened to Tom? What happened to Tom? Where are you?
I am in a town called Onekama.
Onekama, yes.
Yeah, right. That doesn't tell you a whole lot. It's about 40 miles west of Cadillac. The big town near us is Manistee, which is a fairly good-sized town.
Yeah. How's
they had some really good girls teams back in the day in the 80s.
Right. How's the snowpack up there?
Yeah, we get snow up here. Through the January, we had over 100 inches. So then we just got dumped on recently. And,
we did too.
Yeah, I heard you guys got a bunch.
It was bad, last weekend.
Well.
Yeah, no doubt. Thankfully, we had Friday off. So anyway, this is the BCAM segment. Dan Young is here, and Tom Markowski is here, so it's like old home week, And we're going to get into a little bit of what's happening with BCAM because nominations are about set to get going here. And the podcast, of course, airs at 5 p.m. on Thursdays, and that's February 15th. So if you are listening to this right on Thursday, this is the last day to join BCAM.
You got it.
So if you're a coach who is not signed up and is not a member yet, Dan, why don't you remind them what benefits it has to being a member?
So if you're a member of BCAM, obviously you can vote for, you can nominate. You can be Coach of the Year. You can nominate your athletes for the academic awards, team, top shooters, obviously all the all-state teams. The regional directors, there's 16 on each side. They're going to try to do their best to get you to be a member if you're not already. The school special helps to get the entire school, girls coaches, boys coaches, all the way down to your middle school and your grade school people. So being a member, you're part of our association and the clinic and the banquet and all that it comes to being a member. Also, the education and learning and getting better and grinding and becoming a better coach. So.
And you said membership has now reached an incredible high.
So for the 11th straight year, we have surpassed the year before, and we are at 5,688 as of right now. And it's probably going to leak a little bit more as we get some mails. We do still get mail-ins.
Right.
Most are done online, but we still get some mail-ins. So Amy Heidelberg, our administrative assistant, Tom Hersey, our executive director, our board of directors, regionals, everybody's working and getting people to join and be a part of it.
Yeah, it's great. So we want it to continue to grow, and we want to celebrate the coaches here in the state. And again, coaches, this is how you can weigh in. Now, for years and years and years, Tom Markowski would rank players, rank teams, still does it on our website. So if you think he's gone, he hasn't. Go to statechampsnetwork.com if you haven't been there in a while, and check out everything Tom has got going. And, of course, he ranks girls basketball, and he's always up to speed with what's happening in boys and girls basketball. Dan is going to be Dan Switzerland Young here on the podcast because, of course, the nominations and everything for the best players of the state, especially Mr. and Miss Basketball, will be coming up shortly. So I get it. How we do things is that Tom is the guy who has got great opinions on some of the best players in the state. I want to let you guys know the nomination period runs from February 24th through April 1st for the girls and March 3rd through April 1st for the boys.
So I will say April 1st is we've changed that to April 1st. It was a lot earlier, and we've just coaches getting the state tournament run, and we've had those situations, so we moved it back. I think it's going to help.
Yeah, I do too.
Hey, I remember when E.C. Matthews went to town and led Romulus, and now he might not have been the best player during the season, but in the state tournament, E.C. Matthews lit him up.
I saw him up front and close when we played them in the districts for many years.
Doing damage at Rhode Island.
He was a special player.
He got hurt last night or this past week. Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I heard his other knee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, following him. He's
great
doing well.
player. Yeah.
So when you talk about BCAM's best of the best, kind of the dream team, it's kind of fun to look back and see because everybody always makes a big deal about Mr. Basketball, Miss Basketball, maybe those who weren't, but these were the top 10 last year. So it's fun to just hear the names again. Cornerstones, Jamal Kane, East English Village, Greg Elliott, Flint Beechers, Malik Ellison, North Farmington's Amari Hardy, Isaiah Livers, of course, from Kalamazoo Central, Kevin McAdoo from West Bloomfield, Xavier Tillman from Grand Rapids Christian, Bryce Washington Jr. from Southfield Christian, Romeo Weems out of New Haven, and Jason Whitens out of Powers North Central. That's an impressive group.
If you think about, those guys and how well they're playing as freshmen in college, a lot of these guys.
Yeah, exactly.
You turn on Marquette, and both those guys are starting or in the lineup. And Xavier Tillman's had a good year. He does not look like a freshman.
Right. Well, he didn't look like a senior last year. He looks like
a junior
full
in
man.
college.
Yeah, he does.
What a good guy. When Livers won the Mr. Basketball, he immediately shot out a positive, and that was a very close race.
That was a guy going to Michigan.
What a classy guy. That was impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they went against each other in the quarterfinals the day after.
I mean,
I know. That's right.
That spoke volumes about that kid and what he's all about.
Tillman had the better of that in the evening.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tom, since you've been doing some research, who are some of the boys that you like this year that could very well end up best of the best?
Well, I think this senior class, for one, is really, really good. And I think in other classes, and we've talked in the past how I think Michigan high school basketball for the boys maybe definitely hit a downturn. You can't say that about this year. I think the senior class is just phenomenal. I think last year's class was very good too, but I actually think this year's class is better. Foster Loyer, for one, just having a great year for Clarkston. You think back to 2009 when Keith Appling and Pershing won it, state title. Appling was a junior. He won Mr. Basketball the next year. I think a very similar thing could happen this year.
You went over a lot of hearts at the state finals. When those people see you in person.
Well, and I think, for me, if I'm talking about a great player, and I think Loyer is a great player, you have to play for a great team. You have to be that guy that makes them win, or is the big guy out there to at least lead the charge. And I think other guys, too. I look at David Dejulius at East English Village Prep. They're the team that beat Clarkston this year. And David played better than Foster Loyer did in that game. Of course, that was in December. We're closing in on March
right,
now, so,
and they just lost early in the PSL playoffs, which doesn't help his
too
case.
bad. There's a lot of parity in the PSL,
There is.
and look at the two teams that are there now. Two Class C teams that
I know.
Many people didn't feel they belonged there or deserved it, but the point is there's a lot of parity in the PSL, and if they ran that tournament next week, you'd probably have two different teams in there.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
and getting to go to mid-Michigan there with Brandon Johns out of East Lansing.
Yeah.
He was out for a couple of games. He banged a knee in practice. I think he missed 3 games, but he's having a fine year too. So those 3 off the top of my head are really good. And 2 kids that I saw early in the season, and being on this side of the state, the west side, I had a chance to see Marcus Bingham out of Grand Rapids Catholic
we
Center.
had him on the show last week.
I'll tell you what, that kid is good.
Yeah,
he
he's
won't
big.
turn 18 until August.
Wow.
This kid is still growing.
He's long,
6'10".
man. Yeah.
Now, he needs to put on some weight,
Yes.
but he's got a marvelous jump shot. His form is excellent. I think Michigan State is getting a fantastic player. I think he might be, in the long run, the best player in this class. Now, when I say might be, he's got to improve a lot. And another guy that needs to improve is Travion Williams out of Henry Ford Academy in Detroit. I had a chance to see him this season. Matt Painter was there, his future coach at Purdue.
Yep.
He was trying to put on a show for his, future coach. And so I really like these kids. Will they win Mr. Basketball? I don't know.
Yeah,
Will they
who
be
knows?
a candidate for Mr. Basketball? That's not my call, but I'll tell you what, they both had great years. And I think, what they're doing now is very, very good. But I think both those kids, you see 2-3 years from now, you're going to say, wow.
Yeah, upside is tremendous with those long, athletic, skilled guys who are just going to be, huge help at the college level when you're like multifaceted player.
So quickly, let's go over to the girls, and we'll kind of relive some of the best. Last year, we had Nia Ahart out of University Liggett, Madeline Clark out of Pittsford, Deja Church, of course, out of Southfield A&T, Kiera Fletcher out of Warren Cousino, who was one of our DAC Female Athlete of the Year finalists, Callie Martinez from Bay City John Glenn, Comaria McDaniel from Dearborn Heights Robichaud, Destiny Pitts out of Country Day. She's doing great at the next level. Oh, yeah. Nikki Tucker out of Marshall, Jordan Walker out of Muskegon Mona Shores, and Maddie Waters out of Rockford.
Yeah. A lot of really good players playing well at the next level. But, again, pretty wide open when it comes to, you talk about this year.
Right.
With Maddie getting hurt.
Yeah.
Just such a shame.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Tom,
you're the big loss for Williamston.
Yeah.
I really think that really hurt their chances of winning a state title,
No
especially
question.
when you got Country Day in your class.
But there's still a lot of talent here, right, Tom?
Oh yeah, they did take a couple of hits. There's been some injuries this year, but hey, Kaela Webb and Maxine Moore out of Country Day, 2 outstanding seniors. Their numbers aren't going to wow you. Webb's averaging about 16 points. Moore's averaging about 10 and 6, leading the team with 6 rebounds. I mean, Country Day, they're always a talented team. They always have a lot of talent. And
I'm going to see.
You're not going to see somebody score 25 points a game.
I know. I'm interested in seeing Kaela. I'm going to the game. John and I are going to go Saturday. They've got Saginaw Heritage. Oh, you are? Okay, then we'll see you there. Well, we're
Heritage. I got Heritage number 1.
Yeah, I know you do.
I got Country Day number 1 and B.
Yeah.
So I get a chance to see some of the 2 good teams.
Well, we're doing a Living Legends show on Frank Orlando.
Oh,
and
great.
so this is kind of the first time we can kind of get out and get some footage and talk to him. So we're going to kind of kill a couple of birds and obviously have a great game to check out.
You'll see one of the top juniors who I have
Mo
on my
Joyner,
top.
we'll be interested to see how. Yeah, that'll be good for her to come down. That's awesome.
And then earlier when we were talking about some of the Miss Basketball favorites, a lot of the guys in this room, of course, love Camree Clegg from Wayne Memorial.
You know what? I've seen her twice, having coached girls basketball at Salem, and we played her the other night, and strong, handles it really well, great vision, shoots it really well.
They nickname her like the Beast.
I
right?
mean,
but in a flattering way.
Yeah, she has a lot of players around her, so she's a willing passer. And talking to her coach, she's a 4.5 GPA with over 1,200 SAT.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
You know, that's good stuff. It's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Going to Clemson, a quality program.
Going
Yeah.
to Clemson. She's going to be a good player at the next level because I just like how she doesn't have to dominate the ball. And that's huge. But if she has to, she will. But she shoots it pretty well. Obviously, at the next level, once you get scouted, you got to be able to shoot the ball. So her size is not going to be a problem because she's quick and she's strong. Physically a strong player.
Yeah, Kiera Fletcher's down at Georgia State in the ACC. And so, and Clemson's actually, I think, number 1 in the ACC right now. So she's going to a strong program.
That's a big time,
It's a big
and Clemson
recruit.
was at her game the other night.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
Cool. So, anybody
seniors having a good year is Lasha Petrie out of Ann Arbor Prep.
Yeah.
Right.
Got to the state final last year.
Yep, one of the 3 Petrie girls, Jamie Petrie, gets skills, and she really shoots it. She's going to Bradley, is long, and her skills have developed over the years, and she's kind of got that mentality, that scoring mentality that you need when you're a wing scorer. So yeah, she's having a great year. Over right around 18 points a game, and she does a lot.
Yeah, she does. I like her versatility.
Yeah.
Plays defense.
Yeah, exactly.
She averages 5 steals a game.
Right.
All right, guys, so we're running long because this is about an 18-minute segment here, but that's all right because we're a podcast and we can do what we want, and hopefully we have entertained the people. So we'll be a little bit over an hour on this week's show, but we do want to mention, of course, that nominations, coaches, it's time to start getting them in, and it's for everything.
Yeah, get your nominations in. Go to bcam.org. Look at your group and get things going and get it in.
And it's for everything, academics, all of it.
You got it. Now, the only thing that's early is the top shooters for if you want to try to be in the top shooters at the state championship for girls and boys. You have to get that in real soon.
Okay.
I don't know the exact date, but that's earlier than the other awards because if you're going to be at the state championship and get into some of those events, our shooting event, you have to get that in ASAP.
All right, and again, if you're listening on Thursday, February 15th, this is the last day to join BCAM if you want to do that, and you are a coach, and you should do that. Join the largest organization in the country when it comes to basketball coaches. So go to bcam.org and do that. Tom, it's been fun.
I
got to give a shout-out to 2 juniors.
Okay.
Julia Aralt out of Grosse Pointe North having a great year, 18.8 a game, and Leah Hartman out of Okemos, who's had like 17 big-time Division I scholarship offers out of Okemos. Tennessee has offered her, having a great year as well.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to seeing some of the top teams in the state this weekend. I get to get the boys on Friday and the girls on Saturday.
Good stuff.
Dan, thank you.
It's almost playoff time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you next week.
See ya.
See you guys.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's. Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for 1 medium pizza at participating locations.
We've been doing this fundraiser for about 4 years, and it's the easiest and best and most profitable fundraiser they have in Michigan.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
All right, let's get into the Catholic League playoffs, which start this weekend. Subject we don't talk about too much here, but I know there's a lot of people who love Catholic League basketball, and again, the tradition is always there. So, what are your thoughts, TJ, on this tournament coming up?
Well, in the CD division, I think that it's going to be between Cranbrook and obviously they just lost the other day.
Yep.
And I think Cardinal Mooney is one of those teams where it seems like every time I do my Class D rankings, I'm like, why don't I have Cardinal Mooney in the Class D?
They got one of the better players in the small school basketball in the state, and Danny Everhart.
Yeah.
He's a gunner.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. He's doing real well. But I think those are the two favorites.
Yep.
They're on opposite end of the brackets, and so if they wind up meeting up in the championship, that'll be Sunday, February 25th.
Let me just throw one thing out there about Cranbrook. This Cranbrook basketball team, who's I think they're 13-1 right now. They have a ton of kids that were on that football team that had an historic season for Cranes football this past fall. They won their second straight Catholic League, won a district. They came really close to upsetting River Rouge, I believe, in the regionals. And a lot of those, that kind of winning mentality has transferred over onto the hardwood. Guys like Tim Hawkswell, their big fella that's going to Michigan Tech on a football scholarship, is one of those, linchpins for both of those programs. And it's great to see that translating from the gridiron onto the hardwood.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you watch State Champs this Sunday, you'll see we had their highlights. They played at the LCA on Monday versus Riverview, Gabriel Richard, and really weren't in that game at all. It got closer. It was very low scoring early, and the kids being in that environment,
I think
it's
really
really weird.
Yeah.
But Gabriel Richard played really, really well. They're in their bracket, so if they
get them in the
they're going to get them in the semis
semifinals.
if they meet. Depending if Cranbrook gets by Everest and
then
Gabriel Richard over Our Lady of the
And
Lake.
then just another note about Orchard Lake, St. Mary. Another note about Our Lady of the Lakes in Waterford.
Yes.
Just another long line of Robacks and Rosses that are coming through. It's a never-ending, never-ending waterfall of Roback and Rosses.
Sometimes you got to look down the road when you're hiring.
And just so you know, the
crazy.
Rosses are Robacks. It's the same.
Right.
It's the same family.
Yeah.
So Grant Ross and Baby Roback are two really fine backcourt mates. So we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. How about AB? Should be competitive.
Can someone finally knock off U-D Jesuit?
Not
That's
this
the
year.
storyline.
Not this year.
No?
No, there's going to be 6 in a row for them. I think that they're just too strong, and the addition of Jalen Thomas, who just returned.
Yep.
Re-addition.
The re-addition. And Daniel
You
Friday
figure St. Mary's would have the biggest?
You know what? St. Mary's
I like
St. Mary's is
CSL.
going to – they're going to give them a run. I saw St. Mary's play at U of D.
They'll play him in the semis.
Yeah, I saw them play earlier in the year. I'm not sure that they have necessarily that extra, maybe that third or fourth guy. Cade Prescorn played really well last night against
Doesn't have a
Country
ton
Day.
of help in the front court though,
But they got Lorne.
They got Lorne Bowman, who is
They
just
do have
a
Lorne.
sensational sophomore.
Yeah,
He really is.
Who also hit
a
another
great-
another half court shot last night,
hit a
right
half
before the
court.
half.
He will be Mr. Basketball. I will make sure that
He'll definitely be a candidate in
You heard it here first.
2020.
Yes, exactly. He'll be there.
Yeah,
He'll
but
be on the ballot. I got some pull.
Yep. Hey, but U.D. Jesuit, I think that they're going to. I think would it be number 6 for them?
Yeah.
If they wind up winning,
Yeah.
I
Four
could
in a
definitely
row
see
with
that.
Cassius and then last year.
It's
but-
been crazy.
At the same time, you can't throw out De La Salle.
I like
and
De La
we
Salle
talked
a lot.
about football and how that carries over. Does that happen for De La
The
Salle?
quarterback Luke Fromm and
Luke Fromm going to Wayne
Justin
State.
Fisher,
and Justin Fisher is one of the best point guards in the state.
And you said Catholic Central's been getting better. I haven't seen them this year.
It's like they have about 9 of the same guys, 6'5", a ton of length. They can shoot it. They can crash the glass. Davis Lukomsky is their leading scorer. A very nice player in the Catholic League, and then Justin Rucat, a junior center that does a really good job. So they got a really nice front court. They got a pretty steady backcourt led by AJ Abnauer, and
So you got to bring your game if you're gonna, you're gonna
But they
get
still
by.
have to beat Divine Child,
Yeah.
who has Quinn Blair, who is
Right.
arguably probably the top senior in the whole.
He's going to William and
Catholic
Mary.
League.
Yeah.
See, the thing with Catholic Central, they kind of remind me of those St. Mary's teams from like 4 or 5 years ago, where they had the size. That, they didn't have the 7-footers, but they had the size. They were physical, and they ain't backing down to nobody. So I look at that's a Catholic Central team. They're not lacking the physicality or the toughness. And if some shots are falling, that's a team that can make.
I mean, when you literally have 6 guys that are over 6'3" or 6'4", I mean, that's for a high school. That's
Right.
that's size.
And then and what was it, like about 10 years ago when Father Gabriel Richard were making noise? They had that kid that was a walk-on at
Echo.
Eke.
Eke.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Oh, no, not
Echo
Echo.
Okune,
Eso
right?
Okune.
Yeah, he could throw
Yeah.
it down. Pete Scotch or whatever was the coach.
Yes.
Pete was the coach.
Yeah, he was the
and then
trip.
they had Josh Herbeck, who wound up
Yeah,
playing
Josh
down at Army.
Herbeck.
Herbeck was pretty
he was
good.
a good player.
Was a really good player.
Yeah, but
And
They haven't been able to really find any
rekindle the
magic
fire.
since. Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Skyline might have something to do with that.
Okune, yes.
I'm not going to oppose TJ, predicting UDJ to come out with 6 straight. Because if I had to put my money down, I would put my money down on UDJ. But I think this tournament this year is more wide open than it's been in the past. There's more of a question mark there. I think you kind of, this is all due respect to all the programs the last couple of years, but I think the last couple of years when the tournament started, you might as well just pencil in UDJ for raising the trophy at Callahan. Right. I think there's some wild cards this year.
So let's say this. So let's say UDJ wins again, but has a tough road, but pulls it out. So then you got the Operation Friendship game, which is now going to be
UDJ versus either Pershing or Edison.
Look at that.
What do you think about that?
I think the Battle of 7 Mile, East and West Side, wouldn't be too bad. I think that'd be great for the city.
And Jesuit.
Callahan Hall would actually have a whole bunch of fans there.
Yep.
So I think I would love to see that.
That'll be Thursday, March 1st will be that game.
And another thing for UDJ that I really like for Jesuit and that bodes so well for tournament play is a lockdown defender like James Moss.
Yeah.
Who's their ace stopper, and he can D up anybody. Whether we're talking a point guard, small forward, shooting guard, on the perimeter, there are a few better.
Yeah. See, and you guys know me, and the one thing I always talk about with a team making a run in any type of tournament is star power. And Daniel Friday is becoming a star.
Hats
through
off to Danny Friday, man. He's having a great one of the. In my opinion, he's the for me. He's my MIP for Metro Detroit.
Yeah, and
if not the entire state for the 2000. And not only that, Pat Donnelly told us.
Yeah,
at the beginning.
I thought he was kind of blowing smoke.
He averaged 7 points last year. He'll be closer to 20 this year. There's a lot of coaches
that will hype up kids.
My name's Friday. I carry a badge. And
he's telling me before the season, expect Danny Friday to average 20 a game, and I'm like, okay. I thought he's a kid that could have averaged, double digits, but I didn't see him becoming a full-fledged star.
Yeah, he's a rising.
And I saw him the first week of the season, and I was like, hey, Donnelly ain't lying. This kid's legit.
Hey, there's a reason why he's got a handful of college offers. I know what Kent State offered him. I talked with the guys over at Kent State, and I told Daniel, I was like, make sure you got your phone on. I was like, and make sure you thank your parents and you thank your coaches and everybody who's been driving you around and stuff like that.
People were worried about Dozier leaving, who was an all Catholic League point guard, and he left for prep school. And dare I say, Daniel Friday is better than Dozier.
He very well could be. You look at just what Friday's done. He's a rising star. But with that being said, another rising star we just talked about was Lorne Bowman. He can take over a game if he does it. They can upset somebody.
And that's what he did in the second half of last night's game.
That's right. Yeah,
yesterday's game,
Country Day.
Wendell Green was phenomenal in the first half. He was really had a triple-double. Had a real strong game throughout the game. Mm-hmm. It seemed like the first half belonged to Wendell Green. The second half belonged to Lorne Bowman. And they're only sophomores, and so when they start putting everything together, people want to say, "Oh, who's better? Who's better?" I'm just like, why can't they both be great? I was like, you know what? I'd love to see them play. Let's say their junior year, their senior year, and then they hope they're both going to have the opportunity to go to the same conference. Now, what conference that might be? It might not be the Big Ten, but it might be. The Atlantic 10, Conference USA, whatever else.
It's also good to see that game, which had been on ice for at least a decade, get renewed.
Yes.
That rivalry, that Orchard Lake Country Day rivalry, which used to be so great when I was growing up in the 90s. You'd see Battier versus Battier at Country Day versus Diallo, David, and Darryl, the three-headed monster that St. Mary's had in the 90s. David Bowens ended up playing the NFL for 12 years. Diallo Johnson was catching passes from Tom Brady at Michigan. They won they won a football state championship and then came like a second away from winning a basketball state championship. And those were some epic battles in the mid-90s.
Yeah, there were some real good, and that was one of the things with Brother Rice. Brother Rice and Country Day used to have a real strong rivalry, and then they wound up getting rid of that because of a couple of twins, the Talbots.
Yeah. Talbots went over from from Brother Rice to Country Day. And that was that.
And all of a sudden nobody could find the contracts.
And it's too bad because literally they could walk to each other.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the sad part.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. We're going to call it for this one. It's another hang time in the books. Want to let you know, obviously, we got league titles we're going to talk about next week. We're going to get ready for playoffs. We're going to have a real good picture as to kind of where some of the candidates are in terms of Mr. and Ms. Basketball and things of that nature. So we are just gearing up now for the stretch run. So make sure you join us each and every week. Thanks to BCAM and thank you to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser. We will see you and talk to you next week.